No.
Hey everybody. So today we are going to be talking about the issue of gun control. As Elliot Spitzer once said, yes, people pull the trigger, but guns are the instrument of death. Gun control is necessary, and delay means more death and horror. The US government needs to modify the Second Amendment by banning semi automatic weapons and making it necessary to conduct a mental health assessment to any interested buyers. Semi-automatic weapons are not necessary in any way, shape, or form for any individual safety and has no business being sold to US citizens. These weapons are dangerous, possess far too much power, and like I said, are simply unnecessary. Pistols and other small guns are enough to keep individuals safe. According to the Statista Research Department, semi-automatics are used in 4 out of the 5 deadliest mass shootings, being used in the Orlando nightclub massacre, the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre, and the Texas First Baptist Church massacre, all amounting to 102 deaths in total for just those 3 events. Banning semi-automatic weapons will allow individuals to feel safer in public spaces, especially those who are survivors of these type of incidents. As we all know, PTSD is very real. Over the past 22 years, there have been over 115 mass shootings, most of them resulting in one common answer. The perpetrator had some sort of mental health issues. With only a background check being necessary, weapons are landing into the hands of mentally unstable individuals, increasing the probability of them hurting others or hurting themselves. In a research done by Columbia University's Department of Psychiatry of US mass shooters, quote, those with any psychiatric or neurological conditions were more likely to use semi automatic guns than non automatic guns. Individuals such as Patrick Crusius, Nicholas Cruz, Devin Kelly, Stephen Paddock, Omar Mateen, Adam Lanza, Dylan Klebold, Eric Harris, James Holmes, all perpetrators in the deadliest US mass shootings in US history, all used semi automatic weapons, and all had severe mental health issues. Um, Mentally unstable people are getting a hold of these dangerous weapons. Therefore, a mental health assessment should be necessary when purchasing a firearm. Mental health assessments can help avoid these individuals from being incriminated and criminalized, and instead can actually possibly help them to get the help that they need and deserve. Lastly, although many people argue that it is the individual, not the gun, that is the problem, um, and banning will not change anything, history shows that it actually has made a difference. Quote, in 1994, a federal ban was enacted on assault weapons and high capacity magazines, but was allowed to expire in 2004. In a research done by Stanford University, within that 10-year period of the banment being in place, quote, 25% there was a 25% decrease in mass shootings and a 40% decrease in mass shooting deaths. Furthermore, after the ban was lifted, there was a increase of mass shootings by 347%. We can see that by banning semi-automatic weapons, there actually is a positive effect on gun violence in general in the United States. The US government needs to address the issue of gun violence and mass shootings by banning semi automatic weapons and making a mental health assessment necessary, as we can see from past evidence that um, the ways in which it can help improve the culture of gun violence. And although gun violence is an issue that will never be 100% solved, it is up to our country to take the necessary steps to ensure that we can live in a nation where individuals worrying about their rights being infringed upon does not come before a solution that can save lives. Thank you.
Okay. Just a couple questions about your speech. For your second claim, do you
Mhm.
intend to fully restrict citizens with mental health issues from obtaining a firearm, or merely heavily regulate what they can and cannot use?
Well, the mental health assessment will determine whether or not they are fit to own a firearm. And with the mental health assessment in place, we will have a lot of people um, who have the credentials to be able to decide that. So it will be up to them.
Okay. And for your third claim, then you mentioned that the federal the ban had expired after a
Mhm.
10-year period. Were
Mhm.
there any attempts to renew that ban?
Not that I read of. I did not read of any attempts.
Okay. All right. So, truly, the banning of semi-automatic weapons has been a topic that has circled back and forth plenty of times for quite a while now. However, this isn't without good reason, as it is a topic that involves the safety, well-being, and livelihoods of many citizens. Many have called for the banning of semi-automatic weapons, as they believe that it would reduce the gun-related crimes, homicides, and mass shootings. However, I believe that the solution is not as simple as that, and the ban could even harm law-abiding citizens that use semi-automatic weapons in a safe and respectable manner. So, while I do believe in placing stronger restrictions on obtaining semi-automatic firearm, placing a federal ban on them is what I believe to be not the best solution. To go into my first point, I don't think the ban will stop criminals from obtaining semi-automatic firearms, but simply cause them to look towards for other sources. An article from the New York Times examined the traced origins of roughly 50,000 firearms confiscated by the Chicago Police Department between the years of 2001 and 2012. Keep in mind that Chicago is known for having some of the most restrictive gun ordinances in the country. Their data showed that many of these firearms were obtained in counties and states outside of Chicago. People merely turned to other sources to obtain firearms. If this were to become a federal ban on semi-automatic weapons, people would merely turn to other countries or even the black market. Moving on to my next point, there are also uses for semi-automatic weapons outside of harm and protection, as they also serve recreational purposes or maybe even contribute to someone's livelihood. A survey conducted by the Pew Research Center back in 2013 showed that around 32% of people own guns for hunting, and 7% cited that they used guns mainly for sport. So, while people may have good intentions in banning semi automatic weapons, they aren't accounting for the citizens that use firearms for recreational purposes, or even for those that make a living off of its utilization. To go into my final point, many people rely on the presence of firearms as a deterrent for criminals. Using the same survey by the Pew Research Center in the previous argument, 50% of the participants cited safety as their main reason for owning a firearm. As for whether criminals actually are deterred by households owning firearms, a survey conducted among incarcerated felons back in 1985 cited that 48% of the felons admitted that they avoided households where they knew that the owners possessed a firearm. Taking away semi automatic weapons would make many citizens an easier target for criminals, resulting in more gun related crimes and possibly even deaths. I don't doubt the intentions of the ban, but I believe that it's not the best method of reducing the crimes and deaths related to gun violence. If people wish to see a genuine change, then they need to look into a solution that still allows law-abiding citizens to obtain one, while also simultaneously making it harder, or even impossible, for people willing to do harm to others in obtaining one.
Okay, you had some really good points. I just have a couple questions. So, in reference to your second argument, do you not believe it is our country's duty to put the safety of its citizens over owning guns for sport?
While I do believe that the safety of its citizens should be the top priority for any government, I also believe that if there is a better option that allows the government for being able to protect its citizens and their rights at the same time, then I believe that is the proper solution to strive for. As of right now, as the way I see it, I believe that there are other solutions than simply banning semi-automatics.
Okay, cool. And in reference to your third argument, can't handguns do the job of keeping one safe?
Yeah, I do believe that handguns are a sufficient method of self-defense. However, they also fall under the same category of a semi-automatic weapon. If the ban of all semi-automatic weapons were to go through, then citizens won't be able to own even a handgun for self-defense, which would in turn just make them an easier target for criminals.
Okay, great. Okay, so my opponent brought up some really good points. Um, However, like mentioned, gun violence is an issue that'll never be 100% solved. However, I believe it is our country's duty to control the controllables. And the controllables are that semi automatic weapons are in 4 out of the 5 deadliest mass shootings. So if we can ban semi automatic weapons, it can control that percentage of being able to take that away, being able to decrease it, being able to make it a safer environment. Um, as he stated, he believes it can infringe upon individuals' rights. However, hunting animals for sport is unethical. And if it comes down between keeping them not banned and allowed to buy for those people who use it properly over the lives and safeties of our citizens, I believe the answer is quite clear. And lastly, um, I believe that the power that semi-automatic weapons um, carry is unnecessary. Mainly the military weapon style firearms. They fire a higher number of bullets. It increases the likelihood of higher death and injury. And it is designed to fire bullets at higher velocities than handguns, making it extremely lethal. Also, handguns, like I said, are effective enough to protect oneself.
It cannot be understated that while semi-automatic weapons are potentially dangerous in the hands of a person who is willing to do harm to others, to say that semi-automatic weapons serve no purpose outside of self-defense is false. As I had previously stated, other uses that the semi-automatic weapons sell outside of self-defense is through either hunting or sports. To place a ban on semi-automatic weapons simply by only focusing on its negative effects would not be fair to the people that utilize these weapons in a safe manner for either sports or for those whose means of living utilize these types of weapons, like hunters, for example. Furthermore, while it is true that placing a federal ban on semi-automatic weapons may reduce the chances of a mass shooting, like my opponent had mentioned, that does not mean it will have the same effects for overall frequency of gun crimes or firearm homicides. And as earlier stated, taking away the means of obtaining a semi-automatic weapon will not stop people from obtaining one, but simply push them to look towards other sources. This can come from other countries or maybe even the black markets. That is why I think that placing a ban on semiotic weapons is not the proper solution that people are striving for, as there are negative effects for law-abiding citizens and loopholes that can be exploited by people that do not or that do intend to cause harm with them.